Welcome to Modern Management of the Older Adult, brought to you by the Institute of Clinical Excellence.
I was like, oh no. All right. Hello, MMA community. My name is Anushka Ranaraja, and I'm a doctor of physical therapy and a TA with the Modern Management of the Older Adult Division of the Institute of Clinical Excellence. Today I have with me Dr. Jessica Kirby, my good friend and someone I've seen as a mentor since undergrad. She was one of my professors at UCCS. Dr. Jess Kirby is an assistant professor of health promotion and sports psychology at University of Colorado Springs. She is director of Center for Critical Sport Studies and founder of Forge of Resilience. She earned her PhD in social psychology of sport and master's in health and wellness promotion. Dr. Kirby's research focuses on exploring sport and physical activity experiences of diverse individuals across the lifespan, as well as the impact of physical activity-based peer relationships on psychological well-being. She worked with the Rocky Mountain Senior Games and National Senior Games supporting senior athletes for 10 years and has published research on the experiences of pre-Title IX women learning and competing in sport of volleyball. She is certified in QPR, suicide prevention, gatekeeper training, and a grit resilience coach. Jess specializes in education and programming focused on enhancing the mental wellness and resilience of individuals, teams, and communities to improve enjoyment, longevity, and achievement potential, while also reducing the mental health crisis experienced by so many today. Her mission is to create cultural change across sport that removes the stigma on mental health and elevates athletes' well-being and human-centered coaching as the #1 priority of sports organizations. I'm bringing her on today in honor of May being Mental Health Awareness Month. Although I don't work with college athletes, I have many patients that struggle with mental health in their everyday life, and they lose the joy and self-confidence they used to have due to their current state and recent decline in function based on whatever they have going on. So, Jess, before we get into the goods, tell me, what is your why? Like, how did you end up being so involved in this space?
Yeah. I think I've always loved health and wellness so much, and I've always been so excited about the opportunity to teach people really small and simple tools that really give them the power to kind of take their joy back in their life. And that's kind of goes for any topic, like across the board. So I've always been so excited about the science of wellness and how our body and brain are connected. And I always think it's the most fulfilling thing in life to just be on a journey with someone and just see them be able to turn those light bulbs back on that help them take back that joy in their life's journey. So it's always been something I loved. And then I think over the past 5 to 10 years, as the most prominent challenges of people have become mental health challenges for so many, I've really just gravitated to that space where so many people need that support.
Yeah, it's awesome. And it's great. You're going all over the US / now traveling elsewhere, going around and talking about this and how it applies within the athletic population and really helping those athletes find their space and where they should be and where they want to be, which is awesome.
Thank you.
So what are your go-to tips for how we can help when working with someone struggling with mental health?
Yeah, I think always the first thing is establishing a connection and a relationship with that person. So always listening to where they're at. So I always start with asking them just, what's been going on? What have they been challenged with? But especially when I've worked with college athletes in the past few years, I find that there's very common pattern of things that they're kind of missing, and it causes them to really struggle mentally. One that I really try to work with them on is asking them their why. So why are you doing this? Especially if you've got people that have been doing something for a long-term endeavor, like athletes that have been playing sport their whole life, it's what they've known, so what's your why? What brings you enjoyment for this thing that can be really hard to do? What do you love about it? And all the days won't be enjoyable or fun. So it's what is that thing that you see that's so important to you that's maybe enjoyable or fulfilling that gets you through the really hard days when it's really difficult and you don't want to do it, but it's the thing that really matches your core values and gets you through the hard days. then I always try to have them either think about who are their trusting, positive, and encouraging relationships in their life. Athletes oftentimes, when they're really struggling mentally, maybe they don't have the best relationship with their coach, or they're feeling like their coach isn't really valuing them as contributing to the team, or they don't have good relationships with their friends, their roommates, their teammates. And so reestablishing or looking for those people that are always lifting us up and that are really quality relationships that aren't transactional. So it's not just someone that's going to give you $5 or give you advice or give you a ride when you desperately need it, but someone who's just really quality for you through and through, who's going to give you the positive encouragement and the positive reinforcement, goes a really long way. And that's like one of our key essentials for mental health, is having social wellness. So having people we feel like we belong with, we can be authentically ourselves, super important for mental health. And then it's always looking at what kind of goals we have. So we always want to focus on what's in our control, which can be really helpful for mental health, because when we look at it from a realistic perspective, much more of life is not in our control than is in our control. So setting small daily goals that are 100% in our control. So we're just getting, a tiny percent, 1% better every day. And then I encourage people to use those little W's instead of always focusing on the big W that maybe is like really abstract or hard to get to, where it's going to be really long-term down the road. The little daily successes add up to slowly help people build back their confidence. And then we get enjoyment when we feel successful. So those both feed into each other, because oftentimes we're so critical of ourselves and we don't even stop to recognize what we're doing well. We just fixate on a couple things that have not gone well.
Yep. Yeah. Now, those are big, all big things. And it's really interesting. Like we were talking, obviously, like I'm not working with athletes, but that's so applicable, not even just to patients. It's like all your relationships. If you're seeing someone struggle, whoever it is, whether it's like a family member or a friend, like finding out all those different pieces is so big, and being able to be supportive. And yeah, it's like last week I had this patient who is diagnosed with Parkinson's, and he was a sailor, which he had to give up once he started losing his balance because of his Parkinson's. And then on top of that, like he recently retired. So I think he's lost a lot of sense of purpose. And then it's like his only focus right now is physically getting better. But obviously, like he's struggling with a progressive diagnosis. And even though he's making like great improvements, he just sees it's like, I'm putting all this work in and I'm not getting better like I would normally. Because like he's doing strength training at least 3 days a week. I think most times it's like 4 to 5 days a week. He's doing cardio almost every day. And he's doing a mobility program that I have him on also like almost every day. But yeah, like if you and I were doing that, we'd see very different amount of progress. So on like last Tuesday, I got there and I was just like, yeah, like, how are you doing? Tell me the things. And he's like, yeah, I'm not doing well. So I'm assuming like he fell or something. He's like, no, like physically I feel okay, but mentally it's just been a struggle. So that was like, your first point is like, what's your why? I talk about that. It's like at eval, like that's when you start that. It's like, what is your why? How am I going to help motivate you throughout this? And I'm sure it's the same with your athletes. It's like, yeah, you may not be able to touch base with them like when they get into sport, but it's like your first contact is probably more of what your first contact point is. It's like, hey, like, why are you doing what you're doing right now? And like, how are you going to enjoy it? How does it fulfill you? What's within your comfort zone? What's not within your comfort zone? So that's like a big thing that we talk about in the PT world, is like find out what's your why. And then obviously like we're with our patients way more than a lot of other medical professionals are. So building that trusting relationship kind of happens more naturally. It's like, I'm spending an hour with this patient and I'm not going to just like sit there and not talk. So we're talking about our lives and we're building like more of those positive, really supportive relationships. And it gives us that empowerment to really uplift them, just like you were saying with your point. And it's like, how do we best encourage them throughout this? And really those relationships are so important. But not even just with us. It's like, so like you probably have athletes that you're having talk to other athletes, or like you're building resources for them as well, right?
Yeah.
So it's like for us, it's like I may not be the best person to talk to about whatever you're struggling with. My suggestion was like, hey, maybe you want to find a Parkinson's support group to talk about. It's like, or maybe you're seeking out mental health from counselor itself, and you're just the first point of contact, and be like, hey, like you have that trusting relationship where you can give them that advice, and they may take it and not feel the stigma of mental health, which is unfortunate that we have that in the first place.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, and then control the controllables, like celebrate all the wins. I'm the biggest person. I'm like, hey, like you improved by like 1 meter per second on this gate, or 0.1 meter per second on gate speed. And it's like, that is better than you were yesterday, right? Or like last week, whatever it was. So yeah, really being able to celebrate those small wins is so big. It's like, regardless of the realm you're in. I mean, like just personally, like we have our own health goals, or like, I mean, obviously like you're very accomplished and you love loading your plate. So it's like remembering all the things that you're accomplishing is so important too. And then being able to give back. So yeah. So recap of, can you give me like quick the 3 recaps for your points just now?
Yeah.
And then
revisit your why that like brings you enjoyment and fulfillment, that drives you. Whether it's a season of sport or a season of life, we should always revisit this so we can change our motivation as we change as people and life changes. Really try to access positive, supportive, encouraging people who will remind us of our successes when we are not remembering ourselves. And then just identify successes every day. So control the controllables. Even the smallest a bit of improvement from day to day adds up big to help us build more robust confidence over time.
It's awesome. Before I log off, I just want to let community know, if you haven't made it to the Ice Physio app yet, go ahead and download that. We have transitioned from our Facebook community groups to the app. MMOA level 1 and level 2 are both in their first week of this cohort, but next cohort for level 1 will start on August 14th, and level 2 will start on October 17th. MMOA Live, we're all over the US, obviously, but the next few, we're in Scottsdale, Arizona, June 1st and 2nd, and I will be there along with Dustin Jones. We're in Spring, Texas, June 8th and 9th, and then Fort Mill, South Carolina, June 22nd and 23rd. Jess, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us. And if you are at all inclined, Jess has a Joyful Movement of May, and we're all posting like what our Joyful Movement is for the day, tagging her in it, just kind of spreading within our communities. Her daughter literally grabbed their neighbor and they went for a walk. So awesome way to just spread the movement and also help with mental health. Mental health, wellness. Wow. All right. Have a good night.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the MMOA podcast. If you found this helpful, please share with someone that could benefit. And if you're looking for more practical content to help you better serve older adults, head over to www.mmoa.online, where you can learn more about our free resources, our community, continuing education courses, and our certification. Once again, that's www.mmoa.online. Thanks for listening.